Welcome to PowerTable on FabricPlan. In this video, we'll learn about setting up an approval workflow in PowerTable. With approvals enabled, every change to a PowerTable sheet is held for review before it's written back to the database. Approvers are notified automatically in teams. They can approve, partially approve, fully reject, or request changes, and every request is tracked from submission to sign-off. Let's set it up and walk through the full request lifecycle. Here, we have a PowerTable sheet connected to an underlying table with our CapEx approval data. We'll try a few different approval workflow setups against this and then see the approval mechanism in action. What we want is to make sure changes to data don't go in unchecked, that there's a review process in place before anything is written back. We can set up an approval mechanism to handle exactly that, and the option to configure and manage it is right here on the PowerTable tab of the toolbar. Enabling approvals is a simple toggle. Once it's on, we have multiple ways to configure the review process. The simplest setup is a flat approval workflow. You specify who the approvers are, and it can be multiple individual approvers. Whenever a change is made, an approval request goes out to every approver on the list via Teams. Once the approvers are in place, click Save, and the approval mechanism is live. It's also possible to make changes to your approval workflow after the initial setup. Clicking Manage Approvals takes you right back to the configuration screen where you can adjust anything you need. The next type is rule-based approval. Instead of routing every change to the same approvers, we can set up rules that check for specific conditions in the data, and depending on which conditions are met, the request goes to different approvers. When setting up a rule, we can check for multiple conditions. Those conditions can be combined so that all of them must be met, or so that any one of them is enough to trigger the rule. We can have multiple rules set up and also introduce a catch-all approver, so if a change doesn't match any of the rules, the request still routes to someone. The third type is multi-level approval. Here, we can specify up to 3 approval levels, each with its own approver or set of approvers. When a change is made, the request goes to level 1 first, and only moves to the next level once the previous level has approved it. The data is only written back to the database once at least one approver at each level has signed off. Once an approval mechanism is set up, regardless of the type, the experience for making changes stays the same. Instead of writing directly back to the underlying table, every change now goes through the approval process. Once changes are made, you'll notice the Save to Database button has been replaced with Submit for Review. When submitting for review, we can add a description for the change, set a due date, and flag it as high priority so approvers know it needs immediate attention. All 3 are optional. Approvers can view submitted changes and approve or deny requests from within the same app. Requesters can also track their own submissions from the Approvals landing page. Under My Requests, they can see everything they've submitted: requests pending review, overdue requests, and any flagged as action required, which are requests where the approver has asked for changes. Pending approvals show up as a badge on the Approvals button, and approvers also receive a Teams message for each request. Clicking the Approvals button opens the landing page, which shows all approval requests. If a request was submitted with a due date and that date has passed, it moves to the Overdue tab. From here, approvers can either view details about a request or approve it directly. From the Details page, approvers can reject, approve, or request changes, either across all changes at once or partially by selecting specific rows. The full request history and any comments on the data are also available right from this screen. For flat and rule-based approval workflows, if the request is approved, the data is written back to the table immediately. For multi-level workflows, an approval sends the request to the next level, and the data is only written back once the final approver signs off. If a request is rejected, the requester receives a notification. And if the approver requests changes, the requester is notified and the request appears under the Action Required tab on their approval's landing page.
In the audit logs, changes to the data now show the approver's name and the date of approval. The Access tab also shows details about the approval mechanism's setup and changes. That's the approval mechanism in PowerTable, from configuring flat, rule-based, and multi-level workflows to submitting, reviewing, and tracking requests end-to-end. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.